Well, Good Friday. The storm has went through. Wasn't much of a storm again. A lot of wind, some really gusty wind. No big deal. I could hear stuff, that place way over yonder, blowing around like sheets of tin or something most of the night, but nothing here is out of place. I've already walked out and looked at the plants. Mama was scared the wind would blow them over and break them, which has happened before. Looks good. Everything's fine. We got about an hour of soaking rain through the whole thing, which was just about plenty. All the beds are soaked down good. So between now and the end of Sunday, I can get my leaves in there for mulch, and in baskets in here. I'll do all that in a couple days. If I had had them leaves in there yesterday with no rain on them, they would have blew out of there. So, garden update, there you go. Let's see, what other update? I mentioned the computer in the house was gone haywire. Ricky Jr. came over, and if y'all hear that noise, that neighbors across over yonder way's got two great big peacocks. They sound real pretty when they holler. Anyway, the computer, he realigned the flux capacitor to the gyro, which runs off the atomic clock, which has to be synchronized with the North Star, and fix the warp drive or something like that. No, I have no idea what he did to it. He sat there for about 2 minutes and look at it for a minute and hit a key and stood up and said, there you go. So it was nothing serious. He didn't have to take it apart or anything. Who knows? I don't know anything about that techie stuff. Anyway, what else I see? This is, like I said, this is Good Friday. All the kids are going to be here tomorrow. We're going to celebrate our Easter dinner and do all that tomorrow, Saturday, because the kids are all going to their in-laws on Sunday. So it looks like me and Mama will be home alone on Sunday. And since we'll do our thing with the kids and the grandbabies tomorrow, we'll make Sunday a yard working day probably. So I have a pile of stuff to do in the shop, out of the shop. I got to do a tiny bit of work on the truck one day this week before we take our trip up to Wheeler. Even though it's just an overnighter, I want to make sure I get there and back. We're going to shop in a minute. I have to fabricate a new tool this morning. Won't take long, I hope. We'll see. I've got everything I need, I do believe. And I'll explain what it is and show you why I'm doing it here in just a little while. They said the rain's gone, but it looks still awful cloudy. It's nice and cool though. This is probably the last of the cool mornings that we're going to have. It will be summertime shortly. I mean, real summertime. Alright, let me show you what I'm going to do this morning. Shouldn't take long, I hope not. Power bandsaw. Remember I had to fix the bearings. The bearing down here. And I figured out why the bearing got crushed. It was actually broken. When I cut blades, I have to make concentric cuts. When I cut steel on this, because it's not deep enough to make long passes. These little pieces here, I've got my slot. Now this is a homemade table here. I got my slot cut too wide. These pieces will fall down in there if I'm not real careful. And I was real tempted when them little pieces come off to stick your finger up there and knock it out of the way, but that's not safe either at all. Not for me, as clumsy as I am. I cut a piece the other day, the last piece I was cutting. This piece here fell down in there. I don't think it hurt the bearing, but it bent this blade. Now it wobbles as it goes through. Brand new blade, mind you. And these things are not inexpensive. You can see right here is where when it stopped the blade actually. And it was running, boogered up the teeth. So this is toast. I have since Found a new brand of blade, which Lennox is a good brand, comes from Lowe's. Lowe's didn't carry these blades, these power band saw blades, for a long time, and now they've got them in, so that's good. And they're 3 in a package. At Lowe's they're $20. At the local hardware I've been getting 3 Milwaukees, which are good blades too, but I've been getting 3 of those for $26. So that's where I'm going from now on. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to build a new table. Sort of build it, not really build it. As I know, I don't need a gap this big or this deep. Now besides steel, I cut, when I split an antler for a antler handle knife, this is the saw I use, because it doesn't go real fast, you know, slow, and I can control it, because you can't put a fence up for an antler. You just, because they got little curves to them and this and that, you got to go slow with them. So I have several pieces of this. This is heavy stainless steel. Now this is dirty, it's got to be cleaned up, but this is the size I want. What I'll do, when I get it cleaned up, I'm going to cut me a slot, the length that I need it, and then figure out where to orient my 2 holes to mount the saw. Now I looked up the swag tables. They're very nice. I'm sure they work very good. They've got a new one out with a foot pedal and controller and all that on it. But $179 that's too much for me. Even though I'm sure the tool is worth it. I've seen, well, y'all probably seen it too. BC Truck has one. He just got a new one. This is too flimsy. This little aluminum here. See, the whole saw move. That's why I got a stick propped up underneath there, the bamboo stick, and it'll bounce as it's cutting. I don't think it'll bounce with this heavy stainless. So I'll show you what the progress is here in just a few minutes. I'm going to clean this up like I said. I'm going to mark my line. And this is square all the way around, so that should be no problem. And I'll show you what it looks like here in just a little bit. I've got a metal cutting saw for my skill saw. Masonry, not a masonry, but a fiber wheel, whatever you call it. And it's a new one. It's old and it's here, but it's new, so it should make that one little cut that I need. Alright, be right back. I just thought the rain was gone. Heard on radio a few minutes ago that it's supposed to rain off and on all day. And it's still a little bit windy, not too bad. Anyway, got the steel cleaned up. I went ahead and cut my slot. I took my time, was very careful. I got it nice and square. Now I measured 4 times, maybe 5 times, for my holes that actually hold the saw to it. I've got them center punched. I'm going to start out with an 1/8 inch drill bit. Now this is a fresh, brand new bit. Well, this is thick steel, I need it sharp. Now I'm going to use this for a pilot hole. Then I'll go back with the 1/4 inch. Then I will countersink for the screws, which are, that's the ones that came out of the saw. If I can find my countersink bit. I haven't found it yet, but I will find it. Or if I don't, I've got a different idea. Alright, now this is too heavy and bulky to handle on the drill press, so I'm going to use the hand drill. And I'm going to do this, and I'll show you what it looks like here in a little bit with the saw mounted, maybe. Alrighty, got my holes drilled, countersunk. I could not find my countersink bit, so it's a 1/4 inch hole. And then I just went up a little bit until the screw head would sink down in there. Still plenty of material there, so I didn't cut it too deep. And let's see if it will fit. Let's see, I thought I just lined it up. Oh boy, look what I did. Alright, one hole will fit. It will not slide in enough for that one. Hang on, I just checked it. Let me see what's going on here. Alright, let's see, is that the back hole or the front hole? Hang on. Maybe I should have measured it 6 times. Hang on, let's see. Alright, I think what I forgot to do, I marked it out here. I need to cut a little inlet here for the blade guard to slide up in so it will slide up. I did the same thing on the old one. And that being so thin, I had to cut the rib off of it. And that is what weakened that one. But I don't think it's going to weaken this. This is at least a 1/4 inch solid stainless, so I think it's going to work. Alright, I won't bore you with the cutting out of this because it's going to take just a few minutes. And then we'll try it again. I hope it works this time. Alright, y'all, this is taking way yonder longer than what I thought it was going to. But I've had to keep on adjusting to get the saw in there. The holes drilled they're proper, they're right, they will line up, but I've got to get the saw in a little bit more. I cut out this notch here for the blade guard, this one here for the edge of the saw, and now the groove needs to go in about maybe a 1/4 inch. So I got the saw back out. I'm going to lengthen the groove just a little bit, and I hope that'll do it. Now as I go, I'm smoothing off the edges and using mainly a file. And I still got to mount it to the table. And it's after 12 o'clock. So maybe I'll get caught up on something here in a minute. Yeah, we'll look at it again in a minute. Well, by George, I think we got it. Now every time I say something's not going to take that long, it winds up taking all day. Now it's just after 1 o'clock and I still have to mount it to the table. Put it right back on the table where it was at. But I had to trim here, had to trim there, had to lengthen my cut that I made. I did drill the holes in the right place. It could have been a little bit more forward, but that's okay. I can deal with that. Now the blade is not touching anywhere, and I think that's going to work just absolutely perfect. Way better than what it was. Everything's flat across here. So, project almost done. Not quite. Let me take it off and put it on the table, and I still got to figure out how to mount it. So I'm not going to take it apart and show you how it went together because that's too much trouble. The only bad thing about it, just like the old one, just like the original swag table, same thing. When the blade wears out or breaks or whatever, you got to take the whole thing apart, put a new blade on, which is okay. I've dealt with that with the old one. Swag makes a new table, the one that's $179, that you can take a little insert out, change the blade without doing all that. But as long as you're real careful with these things, you can't cut real sharp bends with them and all that, and as long as nothing can get down in there and mess it up like the old one did, it's not a big deal because that blade will last a long time. So let me get it off of here and get it over there on the table, and I will try to figure out how to get it mounted, and we'll see it in action here in just a minute. And then I'm going to have to go in and find something to eat because I'm about wore out. I didn't sleep much at all last night. The wind is up, something fierce again today, so I can't do nothing outside. So we'll have to do some outside stuff later on. Alright, be back in a minute. Show you what it looks like on the table. Alrighty, and it's taken me all day to get it dialed in, but new table is done. Now, it wasn't quite long enough to reach the edge of the old table. I just cut a little piece of plywood there just to take the gap up, make it look a little bit better. But looks doesn't matter as long as it works, in my opinion. Now, you can see it's sitting straight up and down, just like it should. Everything's smooth and flush. Now, I bolted it to the table with 2 machine screws, bolts and nuts. I couldn't get it countersunk deep enough, so I just ground the top of them off because it's not going to come off of there. If it does have to come off, I can take it off if I have to. But now, I had to notch out here, I had to notch out there, lengthen that. But it's all done. Now, this should last many, many years. Of course, it's not a swag table, but you guys at Swag, I like your stuff. I like what you do. But you are very, very, very expensive. Total cost on this project here, $0. I had everything. I didn't have to go get nothing. So, there we go. Now, the way I start mine, I'm going to put a switch in here eventually, but take this clamp, put it right here. Watch your ears. That thing is very loud. And that's why I have my earmuffs hanging right there on it. And I was going to cut some stuff today, but to be honest with y'all, I am wore out. I can't do it. So I'll be out in the wee hours of the morning, and I'll split some antlers, and I'll show y'all that. And once again, I apologize for being behind on knives, but maybe I can get caught up tomorrow or Sunday. We'll have to wait and see. But because I've got 3 very, very, very cool projects to start next week. See, 4. 3 knives and a woodworking project. One that I hadn't done in a long time, but I think y'all like it. I'm going to like it. It's going to be pretty. So, that's going to do it for Saturday. No, it's not Saturday. It's Friday. That's right. It's still Good Friday. I'm going in and getting in my chair and probably not going to move until it's time to wake up about 1 o'clock or so. So, thank y'all for watching. Thank you for your support. And I'll see y'all in a day or two.